Hello, my name is Brian Bollman, and in this video we will be reviewing and recapping my playtest with Genesis Thunder Blast. Like with all these videos, there's no such thing as the perfect string. There's only going to be what's the perfect string for you. So this is just my experience. It may differ to an experience you have, or it may differ to other things you read online. So ultimately, you'll have to come to a decision yourself on what string works for you or how you feel about it. So this is more of just a very quick overview, a generic guide to my experiences and my initial experiences with this particular string. The main takeaway for me using Thunder Blast is that it is incredibly similar to Gamma's TNT2, right down to the price. So ultimately, if you're a fan of that string, this is definitely something to try and see which one you prefer. The reality is not many players are going to be using this in a full bed consistently. What I think this string will really excel at is acting as a cross string, and I'll talk about why that is as we go through this video. But let's start with the official description from Genesis. Be prepared. There's a lot of buzzwords in here, but for the most part, this is pretty similar to the experience I had. Genesis Thunder Blast offers amazing repulsion power and controlled spin. Players who come into the net a lot will appreciate the soft capabilities of this string with its impeccable touch and comfort. Thunder Blast has also some of the best tension retention from any multifilament string thanks to a very unique construction process. The center core utilizes a very elastic monofilament compressed and heated to stretch easily. The outer core is twisted by soft elastic multifilaments. A coating resembling a rough surface is added for increased spin. And here under advantages, it says feel and power. All right, so let's get into the actual review and my experience with Genesis Thunder Blast. So I strung this racket on May 22nd, and the strings ended up breaking on May 31st. So I barely got 8 or 9 days out of it before the strings broke. I was playing with it pretty much every day for multiple hours in a wide range of situations. And when they actually did break, it was when I was going all out. And if you know anything about strings, sometimes they can break kind of just unexpectedly. And that was sort of the case here, although I also felt like it was coming. So in this case, let's start with the major disadvantage, especially of having this in a full bed. This string is not designed for somebody who plays a lot from the baseline and plays with heavy spin. It is a power-oriented string, meaning that the ball is really going to pocket and then kind of explode off, versus that kind of come up from behind the ball and get the snapback that you normally expect with a polyester. This string is not capable of that. It is not designed for that. And after just a few days of playing, and actually I'll even bring that back, after a few hours of playing, the big thing, the thing that really got on my nerves was just how much the main strings were moving. There is not that snapback. So when the string moves, it kind of moves and it gets stuck out there. And so eventually you get to the point where between every single point, you have to go in and move the strings back, move the strings back. So if you're somebody who plays a lot from the baseline, this is going to be extremely infuriating for you, because you really kind of have to do that. You're messing with the sweet spot if you don't. And so that was the thing that I had to constantly do. And I knew that when it broke, it was going to break on a main string. It just happened to break kind of a lot sooner than I expected. Can you still hit with some topspin like they say they add a coating? Yeah, you absolutely can. You'll get some topspin on the ball, but I don't think durability is really going to hold up. You probably won't last more than a month, even if you just hit with moderate amount of topspin. So this is a breakable string compared to Xplosion, which pretty much lasted a full month for me and actually broke on a cross. So let's actually focus on the positives. The biggest positive is definitely the power. I first strung it in. It was stiff for maybe the first 15 or 20 minutes. If that's something that's bothering you or you have arm problems, this is a much softer string, so it's one that you could try out if you have a few arm issues. You can always put it on the ground and step on it and flip it over and kind of try to step on it the same amount to loosen things up a little bit to break in the strings. I didn't need to do that. It came down relatively quickly, and then I kind of got into that comfortable zone. Very nice feel on serve, very nice feel on volley. The description that they list is actually the same conclusion I came to. If you're a doubles player who plays serve and volley, or you're very much an attacking doubles player, almost everything you do is at the net. You know, maybe you have to hit some ground strokes from time to time, but you're always looking to make that approach, maybe more so with slice, or you go for kind of a more penetrating flat shot. This is a string that you could potentially use, and you could try it out, and it might work for you. But if you're a baseline grinder, anything like that, probably not in your best interest to use this string based on what I've talked about already. So those were kind of my major concerns. But I think where this string will really kind of excel and where it's going to get the most usage is to soften up a hybrid setup and to kind of give you that great blend of spin with power, this being your power component and also a little more feel. Because like I said, the feel is nice. It is crisp. It is good on the arm. Nowhere near as stiff as Xplosion from Genesis, which we talked about before. Definitely a power first, a feel first kind of string. And one that I do think I will be using a lot as a cross string, and what I'll be recommending a lot as a cross string. I remember back when I used Luxilon Big Banger, I always loved using TNT as my cross string for that, and it just worked really well. It was a great complement, and I think the same thing is going to be true about this string. If you use something that's a little bit more aggressive, something like Genesis Spin X or Big Banger, or if you remember like Babolat Revenge, there are still some of these really rough, arm-intensive sort of strings that are out there on the market. Polyester string, something like Twisted Razor from Genesis would be another example. I would want to use something like this to really try to increase that feel in the string bed, really kind of soften it up. If I was using one of the softer polyesters out there, something like RPM Rough, something like True Grit, something like Black Magic, then maybe I would use Xplosion or some other kind of more durable synthetic gut in the cross where the feel isn't quite as soft as this string is. And I think that would kind of complement well. But ultimately, it's going to come down to you and what you want to do with your game. So my major takeaway, the final conclusion is, if you're a serve and volley type player and you come to the net all the time, you hit a lot of volleys, you need a softer type string, experiment with this in the full bed. But if you are going to be hitting a lot of ground strokes from the back and you're a topspin first kind of person, wouldn't recommend this in the full bed. But as a cross in a hybrid setup, it's definitely something to consider, and it's probably what I'll be using as a cross string a lot of times in the future. So don't forget, head over to the website brianbollmantennis.com, go to the resources section. You can find a lot of my other string reviews and a much more detailed write-up on my experience with Genesis Thunder Blast. Take care.